You think he's pulling away. You think he's losing interest. You think the silence means something is dying. But what if I told you the silence means the complete opposite? What if the moment he went quiet is actually the moment he started falling harder than he ever has before? Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you is going to completely change the way you see everything that's happening right now. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Everyone teaches you to read the signs of a man losing interest. Nobody teaches you to read the signs of an avoidant man gaining it. And those two things look almost identical on the surface. Almost, but not quite. And once you know the difference, you will never panic the same way again. So before we go any further, I want you to drop one word in the comments right now. Just one word. Tell me where you are in this situation. Are you confused? Are you hurting? Are you hopeful? Drop that one word and let me know, because this conversation is for you, and I want to know you're here. And if this is already hitting something real for you, please subscribe, because we go deep here. We don't do surface level advice. We do the kind of stuff that actually changes how you think and how you love. Now let's get into it. Let's start with what an avoidant actually is, because most people get this wrong from the beginning. They hear the word avoidant and they immediately picture someone cold, someone calculated, someone who doesn't care. And that is one of the most damaging misunderstandings that exists in modern dating. Because an avoidant person is not someone who doesn't feel. An avoidant person is someone who feels so much that the feelings become terrifying to them. They are not running from you. They are running from how much you make them feel. And there is a massive difference between those two things. Think about it this way. Imagine you have a fear of heights, not a casual discomfort, a genuine, paralyzing fear. Now imagine someone takes you to the most beautiful view you have ever seen in your life. Breathtaking, stunning, life-changing. What do? You back away from the edge. Not because the view isn't beautiful, because it is so beautiful and so overwhelming that your nervous system can't handle the exposure. That is what love feels like to an avoidant. You are the view, and they are backing away from the edge. Not because you aren't magnificent, because you are so magnificent that standing at the edge of you feels like it might destroy them. Now, I want you to sit with that for a second, because if you've been taking his silence personally, you've been reading the wrong story. The silence isn't rejection. The silence is overwhelm. And there's something you need to understand about overwhelm. It only happens when something matters. You cannot be overwhelmed by something you don't care about. Indifference doesn't create overwhelm. Love does. So let's talk about what's actually happening inside him when he pulls back, because this is where it gets really interesting and really important. When an avoidant starts to catch real feelings for you, something happens in his nervous system that is genuinely uncomfortable. Not emotionally uncomfortable in the way that feels dramatic, physically uncomfortable. His body registers closeness with you as a kind of threat. Not because you are threatening, because closeness itself was taught to him as dangerous at some point in his life. Maybe he had a parent who was emotionally unavailable. Maybe he loved someone deeply and got hurt in a way that rewired his relationship to vulnerability. Maybe he watched love collapse around him as a child and absorbed the lesson that opening up leads to pain. Whatever the origin, the result is the same. His nervous system learned that emotional intimacy equals danger. And so when you come along and you start to matter to him in a real way, his nervous system does exactly what it was trained to do. It raises the alarm. It says, this is getting serious. Get out, get out, get out. And so he pulls back, not because he wants to, because the alarm is going off and he doesn't know how to sit with it yet. Here is what most women do at this point, and I say this with so much compassion. Most women panic, and the panic makes complete sense. You feel him pulling away, and everything in you wants to close that gap. You want to reach out more. You want to check in more. You want to ask what's wrong. You want to have the conversation. You want to fix whatever is broken. And all of those impulses come from a loving place, but they work against you with an avoidant almost every single time, because every time you chase the distance, you confirm the fear. His nervous system is saying, closeness is dangerous. And your pursuit says, yes, you're right. It's coming for you. Run faster. So he does. And then you chase more and the cycle tightens. This is not your fault. You were not given a manual for this. Nobody sat you down and said, by the way, some of the people you fall in love with have nervous systems that are wired to retreat from the very thing they want most. Nobody told you that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to stop reaching and just stay steady. Just be rooted. Just be so solid in yourself that you become the safest thing he has ever seen. Not because you're playing games, because you genuinely have your own life and your own worth and your own joy, and you're not handing all of that over to someone who hasn't shown you yet that they can hold it carefully. So what does falling deeper in love actually look like for an avoidant? Because I want to be specific here. I don't want to give you vague reassurances. I want to give you concrete things to look for. The first thing is this. He becomes more inconsistent right when things were getting consistent. And I know that sounds terrible. It sounds like backsliding. It looks like things were going well and now they're not. But here's the truth. Consistency with an avoidant builds intimacy. And intimacy triggers their pullback response. So the pullback after a period of growing closeness is not a sign things were going badly. It is a sign that things were going so well that his defenses got activated. The retreat is the evidence of the connection, not the absence of it. The second sign is that he starts to find small reasons to create distance that don't quite make sense. He's suddenly busier. He needs more space. He brings up some old thing that bothered him that he never mentioned before. And this can feel crazy making because you're looking at it thinking, but nothing changed. And you're right, nothing changed externally, but everything changed internally. He got closer to you in his heart, and the internal shift triggered the external distancing behavior. He's not creating distance because something went wrong. He's creating distance because something went very right. And he doesn't know how to handle that yet. The third sign is that even in the distance, he doesn't fully disappear. An avoidant who is not invested will actually disappear. No contact at all. Clean break, move on. But an avoidant who is catching feelings for you can't fully let go even when he's pulling back. So he's quieter, but he still watches your stories. He takes longer to reply, but he still replies. He says he needs space, but he still sends you something random. A song, a meme, a stupid joke, something that has nothing to do with anything except that he was thinking of you and he couldn't completely stop himself from reaching out even while he was in the process of pulling away. That tension right there, that push and pull, that is not confusion. That is someone fighting with themselves because their feelings are real and their fear is also real. And both of those things are happening at the same time. The fourth sign is that his vulnerability leaks out sideways. He won't say, I miss you. He won't say, I'm scared of how much I like you. He won't have the direct emotional conversation, but he'll slip up. He'll say something like, nobody gets me the way you do, and then immediately change the subject. He'll be in a conversation and for just a moment, something raw and honest will come through. And then he'll cover it up with humor or distraction or by pivoting to something completely different. Those leaks are the truth. Everything else is the defense. And the defenses get bigger the more the truth grows. So the more he leaks and covers, the more he's feeling. The fifth sign is that he compares you to other people in a way that favors you, and he can't quite help it. He'll say things like, most people don't understand this, but you do. Or, I've never really been able to talk about this with anyone else. He's not just making conversation. He's acknowledging to himself and to you that you are different, that you have gotten somewhere in him that other people haven't gotten. And that scares him because different means he has more to lose. Different means this isn't casual. Different means if this goes wrong, it's going to hurt in a way that other things haven't hurt. So he starts to protect himself even as he keeps leaning on you. That protection looks like distance, but it's built on a foundation of depth. Now, here is the most important thing I can tell you about this entire situation, and I want you to really hear this. You cannot heal his attachment style for him. You cannot love him into security. You cannot be patient enough or understanding enough or perfect enough to manually rewire his nervous system. That work belongs to him. It has always belonged to him. And if you have spent months or years trying to be the right combination of available and cool and present and non-needy, all in hopes that you will finally crack the code and make him feel safe enough, you have already given away more than you should have. And I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I'm saying it because you deserve to hear the truth. You are not a therapist. You are not a rescue mission. You are a partner. And a partner gets to have their needs met too. So what is your role here? Your role is to be so genuinely full of your own life that you stop orbiting his mood. Your role is to be warm and open and real when he's present and completely fine and functional when he's not. Your role is to be the kind of person whose self-worth does not rise and fall based on how much attention he is or isn't giving you today. Not because that makes you strategically attractive, but because that is who you actually want to be. That is the version of yourself that you deserve to be. And as a very specific side effect, that version of you is the most compelling thing an avoidant has ever encountered in his life. Here's why. Everything in an avoidant's past has told him that love means someone needing him in a way that feels suffocating. Or love means someone leaving when he can't give enough. Or love means walking on eggshells or managing someone else's emotions or being responsible for someone else's happiness. So when you come along and you are genuinely okay, not performing okay, not pretending to be cool while internally falling apart, actually okay, grounded, living your life, not collapsing when he pulls back, not chasing when he retreats, not making him the entire center of your universe. Something happens in him that is both confusing and irresistible. He has never seen this before. He doesn't know what to do with it. It makes him lean in even as he's trying to pull back, because you are the first person who has ever shown him that closeness doesn't have to cost him everything, that loving someone doesn't mean being consumed by them, that a relationship could feel like coming home instead of losing himself. And that realization, that slow, dawning realization, that is what falling deeper looks like for an avoidant. But I need to give you the other side of this too, because I would be doing you a disservice if I only told you the hopeful version. There are situations where an avoidant is genuinely not ready, where the distance is not just fear and overwhelm, but actual unavailability, where he is not leaking vulnerability sideways, but is truly locked down. And in those situations, the most important question is not, how do I get him to open up? The most important question is, how long am I willing to wait for someone who isn't showing me the movement I need? Because there is a difference between someone who is scared of love and slowly working through that fear and someone who is using the avoidant label as a permanent excuse never to show up. And you need to be honest with yourself about which one you're dealing with. Fear moves. It may move slowly. It may move inconsistently, but it moves. It leans in even while pulling back. It reaches out even while retreating. It shows progress even if that progress is uneven and imperfect. Someone who is using emotional unavailability as a permanent escape doesn't move. It stays flat. It stays stuck. The same conversation happens every 6 months. The same almost gets close and then pulls way back, happens over and over with no change in the overall trajectory. And if that is what you're seeing, you need to take that seriously. Not because he's a bad person, but because you are a person with a timeline. You have a life to build. You have love to give and receive. And giving that love indefinitely to someone who is fundamentally not moving is not patience. It is sacrifice. And it is a sacrifice you have never been asked to make. So how do you know the difference? Watch the trend, not the moment. One bad week proves nothing. One good week proves nothing. 6 months of overall trajectory proves everything. Is the general arc of this relationship moving toward more closeness over time? Even slowly, even with setbacks? Or is it staying flat or getting more distant? The trend tells you everything, the moments don't. Now let's talk about what you actually do when you believe you are in the version of this where he is falling deeper but pulling back out of fear. Because knowing the psychology is one thing. Knowing what to do with it is another. The first thing you do is you stop making his behavior the weather report for your day. His silence does not mean you are unlovable. His distance does not mean you did something wrong. His inconsistency does not mean you are not enough. Those are stories you are telling yourself, and they are not facts. They are interpretations, and you get to choose different interpretations, especially now that you understand what his behavior actually means. The second thing you do is you invest heavily in your own world, not as a tactic, as a genuine practice. What are the things that make you feel alive that have nothing to do with him? Go do those things. Be in those things fully. Not to make yourself look busy, not to perform having a life, but to actually have a life. Because when you have a real and full life of your own, you naturally stop being available every second. You naturally have things to look forward to that are not him. And that energy is completely different from the energy of someone who is available every second and tracking his every move and waiting for the next breadcrumb. One of those energies is magnetic. The other one is desperate, even when it's trying so hard not to be. The third thing you do is you get honest with yourself about your own attachment style. Because here's a truth that doesn't get talked about enough. Anxious attachers and avoidant attachers are drawn to each other with an almost magnetic force. The anxious person's need for reassurance triggers the avoidant person's need for space. And the avoidant person's space triggers the anxious person's need for reassurance. It's a perfectly designed loop that keeps both people locked in their patterns. And the only way to break the loop is for at least one person to do something different. And since you're the one listening to this right now, you're the one who gets to go first. You're the one who gets to interrupt the pattern. What does interrupting the pattern look like? It looks like feeling the anxiety and not acting on it. It looks like noticing the urge to reach out for the 5th time and choosing instead to go for a walk or call a friend or do something that fills you up. It looks like being completely honest with yourself about what you need and asking for it once, clearly and calmly, without chasing it. Not asking for it 12 times in 12 different ways, trying to finally land on the combination of words that will make him understand. Once, clearly, calmly. And then you let him respond or not respond. And you take that information seriously. The fourth thing you do is you communicate in low pressure ways. An avoidant does not respond well to high stakes conversations. Sitting him down and saying, we need to talk about where this is going to send his nervous system into full alert, and you will get his most defended self in return. Not his most honest self. You will get the wall, not the person. But a casual text that says, hey, I had fun the other night. Not a question, not a demand for definition, just an honest, easy statement. That lands differently. It creates a low-pressure door that he can walk through if he's ready. And it shows him that you're not going to make every interaction a referendum on the relationship, that you can be easy to be around, not because you have no needs, but because you don't lead with them every single time. The fifth thing you do is you let him experience the actual loss of your attention, not as a punishment, not as a game, but as the natural consequence of him pulling back. When he pulls back, you don't fill the gap with reaching out. You let the gap exist. You let him feel what it's like when your energy is not there, when you're not responding within 30 seconds, when you're not the one initiating every other conversation, when your life has moved on to the next moment and you are genuinely in it. That absence is information for him. It tells him that you are not waiting, that you have a life, that you are not a guaranteed constant that he can take for granted and return to whenever he's ready. And for an avoidant, that experience is one of the most powerful activators of real feeling there is. Not fear of losing you out of insecurity, but a genuine recognition that this specific person in this specific form is not infinitely available. And if he wants to be in your life, he needs to actually be in your life. Now, there's something I want to address directly, because I know some of you are sitting there thinking, but how do I know he's falling in love and not just keeping me around for his own convenience? And that is such an important question, because the keeping around behavior can look a lot like the falling harder behavior on the surface. Both involve inconsistency. Both involve moments of closeness followed by distance. Both involve enough contact to keep you engaged, but not enough to feel secure. So how do you tell them apart? The difference is in the quality of the moments, not the frequency. A man who is keeping you around for convenience doesn't give you his real self in the moments he shows up. He gives you entertainment. He gives you the parts of himself that are easy. He keeps it light. He keeps it fun. He doesn't go anywhere real with you. But a man who is genuinely falling for you, even if he's scared, will give you something real in the moments he lets himself be present. He'll say something honest. He'll be vulnerable, even if briefly. He'll ask you something that shows he's been thinking about you and your life outside of the moments you're together. He'll remember things, small things, things that only someone who was paying real attention would remember. Those are the markers. Not how often he texts, not how quickly he responds, but whether when he shows up, he actually shows up. And I want to talk about one more thing before we get toward the end of this, and it might be the most important thing of all, your nervous system in this situation. Because everything I've described about how an avoidant functions is true. But here's what's also true. Being in a relationship with an avoidant while you have anxious attachment tendencies is one of the most dysregulating experiences a human being can have. The highs feel incredibly high because the connection, when it's good, is so genuinely good. And the lows feel incredibly low because the distance feels like rejection even when it's not. And living in that cycle is exhausting. Even when you understand it intellectually, even when you know he's not doing it on purpose, your body doesn't know that. Your body just knows that sometimes the person you love is warm and present, and other times they're cold and gone. And that inconsistency is one of the most stressful things a nervous system can experience. So this isn't just about understanding him. This is about protecting you. This is about making sure that while you're being generous and patient and grounded, you are also being generous and patient and grounded with yourself. That you have people in your life who give you consistent love, so you're not pouring everything into this one unpredictable source. That you have a therapist or a journaling practice or some way of processing your feelings that doesn't involve making him responsible for them. That you are not putting your entire emotional life on hold, waiting for him to be ready. that you are genuinely moving forward in your own growth and your own joy and your own life, even while this uncertain thing is happening in the corner of it. Because here's the truth about love and timing and all of it. The version of you that is whole and full and genuinely okay is the version that the right person gets to be with. Not because being whole makes you more attractive as a strategy, because being whole means you will not accept less than what you deserve. And that is the filter. The person who rises to meet you when you know your own worth. That is the person worth being with. Whether that is this avoidant man who finally works through his fear and chooses you fully and consistently, or someone else who comes along and chooses you without all the back and forth. You don't have to choose between loving him and respecting yourself, but you do have to be honest about which one you're actually doing on any given day. So let me leave you with this. If the man you're thinking about right now is showing you those signs, the inconsistency after closeness, the sideways vulnerability, the small reaches even in the distance, the comparing you favorably to everyone else, the retreating right when things were getting real, then he is probably not losing interest. He is probably sitting somewhere right now trying to figure out how to handle how much he feels. He is probably arguing with himself about whether he should reach out. He is probably annoyed at himself for caring this much. He is probably doing the avoidant version of falling in love, which looks nothing like the movies and everything like quiet, private, internal chaos. And you don't have to rescue him from that chaos. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to be available enough or cool enough or perfect enough to make it stop. You just have to be you, the real you, the full you, the you that has a life and knows her worth and can be warm without being desperate and can be loving without losing herself. That is the version of you that is the most honest response to what he's going through. And it is also the version of you that you owe to yourself regardless of how this specific story ends. Because at the end of all of this, the most important relationship you are ever in is the one you have with yourself. The way you talk to yourself when he goes quiet. The way you treat yourself when you're uncertain. The way you choose to spend your time and your energy and your love when the outcome is not guaranteed. That is the real measure of where you are. And if you're here watching this and asking these questions and doing this work, you are already ahead. You are already in the practice of trying to understand love more deeply and love more wisely. And that is not a small thing. That is everything. Keep going, stay steady, know your worth, and let love find its way to you without losing yourself in the waiting.